If you've ever been in a project meeting where the vendor's sales team promised the world, but there was no technical person who could answer your questions, how quickly confidence can evaporate. I've sat in those rooms. Sometimes it's clear right away who's there to sell and who's there to genuinely help you. 73% of project failures cite poor vendor relationships in their struggles. In this episode, I'll share the practical signs that I look for when supporting clients through the vendor selection process, like when they bring their solution architect to the first meeting, or when they're honest enough to say, we're not the right fit for you yet. If you want to avoid the pain of trying to make a partnership work when you're not right for each other and get some time back in your day, then let's dive into it. First question is, do they understand your business process? Look beyond technical capabilities to deep business understanding. So I have a recent example when working with a client, we were evaluating software options for a new workflow system. There were a handful of options and all of them could answer the functional needs of the business. But one of them came with an additional layer. They had ideas and opinions about how the client might improve their process. They also added a few gotchas to watch out for. Vendors who can explain your business process back to you in their own words, and you have something to offer above the exact ask that you've come up with, are the ones who understand your industry and potentially your business. What's the infrastructure approach? On-premise versus cloud used to be this big sort of philosophical question to ponder and go back and forth on. In the last few years, it's felt like not even a worthy of asking kind of question anymore. But just recently, in my world anyway, it's re-emerged. I've had a few clients in the past year that have chosen on-premise infrastructure. This isn't just technical. Sometimes it's been about control of data, and sometimes it's been about the perception of value and the cost of ongoing monthly subscription. Ask what happens when we need to scale or change direction. How are you able to guarantee access to our own data? Number 3, how do they define local support? So Australia is in an awkward time zone. I've become used to being last on the list of people who get to select what time the meeting is, and I've done many training sessions in my pajamas. Local support means not just being available during our business hours, but also some level of cultural understanding about the environment that we're operating in. So I have this example of GST, which for years in working with US-based businesses, those vendors often misunderstood the idea of including the tax in the sales price, but then not including it in your sales numbers. So a tip here is to test their knowledge of your regulatory environment during the demos. We're really looking to shift to a partnership mindset here. I'm wondering, have you ever worked with a vendor who surprised you, but in a good way? Here are a few things that I look for in the early days of working with a new vendor that are positive signs of a true partner. Number one, back to the earlier conversation. They bring a solution architect or a technical lead to the first or one of the first conversations. And why this matters is because it shows the vendor serious about understanding your business and your technical needs, and that they understand the need to connect to your existing systems. So if I go back to my recent example where they did bring a solution architect, maybe that wasn't necessarily the right conversation for the solution architect to be in, but it did demonstrate an interest in the other connected systems and the fact that we may have overlooked some of the connecting systems. So one tip here is always ask who will be in the room for your first meeting. If there's only a salesperson, that's a red flag. If they bring technical expertise as well, it's a strong signal that they've already started thinking about how this will work. Number 2 is that they're honest about fit, even if it means saying you're not ready or we're not right. A vendor who's willing to walk away or advise you to wait is prioritizing your long-term outcomes over a quick sale. This is an example that I had happen to me recently, not in a vendor capacity, but whilst I was recruiting. Someone who I invited to apply for the role self-selected out, saying they were not the right fit for what I was looking for. I'm really grateful for that because it means that we're not both going to spend time and energy trying to make something work that just isn't right. So the tip here is to ask vendors, in what scenario would you advise a client to not proceed? The best partners will have a clear answer and won't be afraid to use it. They take ownership during delivery and action to improve. When you move into implementation, a true partner will clearly state X is responsible for Y, and here's how we'll make sure that they deliver. They don't just hand off tasks, they own outcomes and make shifts in their own ways of working and behaviour. For example, during a discovery phase recently, a vendor, after some feedback was given, owned up to needing more time to complete the discovery. The time was granted, as most clients are open to this if they see benefit to it for them. And the solution put forward was more complete. So during the scoping, ask, who will be my main point of contact, and how do you handle issues if something goes off track? Look for vendors who can give specific and confident answers. The best vendors don't just turn up with a sales pitch, they bring their technical brains, their honesty, and their accountability to the table. So what next? You can download my vendor partnership PowerPack by typing partner. It includes some of these questions plus some evaluation scorecards. Next week, we're going to unpack the kickoff calls that set expectations from day one. Until then, choose partners, not just suppliers.